I'm here at the Farm Show celebrating the 97th year at the Farm Show. Not for me, but for the Farm Show itself. It's a wonderful event. If you have not been to the Farm Show and you don't have time to make it this year anymore, I suggest you put it on your calendar for next year. It's always a great event. I'm here with the Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Greig. Mr. Secretary, 97th show. What keeps this thing going so long and what makes it such a great success?
Well, as you know, there's always a change in agriculture, everything constantly changing. And I think that the farmers come because they like to visit with the other farmers across the state. This is compared to our state fair, and we have people competing. We have 6,000 head of livestock in this building right now, and 10,000 competitive exhibits, and food from every sector of agriculture. So they come back. It's kind of a reunion, an old home day, and people come to see, the farmers come to see what's new in technology and the science of agriculture, and the consumers come to get something to eat and visit with the farmers and learn more about agriculture.
Tomorrow I am going to be part of the Celebrity Dairy Show, Dairyman Showmanship Contest, and I met my coach, and it was interesting to meet him and see the young heifer that I'm going to be showing with his coaching. But while I was over there talking to him, I saw groups of young kids, probably kindergarten age, a little bit older, like they do with the kids. There's like 4 or 5 or 10 of them, and they're all holding on to a rope, and they're going along. And they would all talk and stop and talk to the cows and say hello. Yeah. And when you see the young kids, and then you see the old kids like me, and we walk in and see the equipment and the new tractors. And I remember my grandfather's farm driving a John Deere 60 and 70, and these monsters resemble nothing of what that tractors look like. So I understand your excitement for the Farm Show also. As I mentioned to you before, I'm now this coming session, I am the chairman of the House Environmental Resources and Energy Committee, and I'm also chairman of the Pennsylvania delegation to the Chesapeake Bay Commission. The two mesh pretty closely together. Pennsylvania through the Susquehanna River, we supply over 50% of the fresh water to the Chesapeake Bay. Let's talk a little bit about our farm community. I believe our farmers and our farm community are doing a great job of protecting the environment. Not to say we don't have more to do, but we're doing a lot of things with fencing and keeping livestock out of the creeks and things. So would you comment on that for me?
Yes, I can, and mainly because, I'm a farmer now, but before I was secretary, I served on our conservation district back in Crawford County for 10 years. And, I had all of the best management practices on my farm, so I know all about those. I know that a lot of farmers across the state have implemented best management practices long before the general public heard about them. Practices that make a difference in our soil and our water. And I know that how important the Chesapeake Bay is. I served as USDA Farm Service Agency State Committee, and while I was on that committee for 8 years, we implemented 200,000 acres of riparian buffer zones that help to clean our water and our.
I know a lot of the dairy farmers in my area. My cousin Leroy Bupp, he went no-till many years ago, was one of the earlier people to get into it. So we are doing an awful lot. Along those same lines, for years we disposed of some of our chemicals and pesticides. And I just read something where we've reached 2 million pounds that we've diverted somehow. What are we doing with that?
Well, that's right. It's called the Chem Sweep program. It's initiated by the Department of Agriculture. It's been going on for years. I used it when I was a farmer, and I was at the 2 million pound. It's a great program because, a lot of times manufacturers update or change the pesticides, and we wind up with a small amount of unused or unwanted pesticides. This gives us a way to dispose of properly that pesticides, and it cleans up the corners of the buildings that with the pesticides that we don't know what to do with, and they are disposed of properly.
I appreciate that. We need to do a lot more of that, not only with the pesticides on the farms, but even the pharmaceuticals at people's homes and things, to make sure that they don't make them into our its way into our watersheds and into the waterways. Maybe one last brief discussion, if we might, on the deer farms. Of course, we had quite a bit of news lately with the chronic wasting disease, and we all have a concern about that, whether we're sportsmen or the farmers that have the deer herds. Can you comment on the efforts we're making along those lines?
Yes, I can. Pennsylvania has over 1,100 deer farms, which amazes a lot of people.
Wow.
We're second in the nation only to Texas. We have 23,000 captive deer in Pennsylvania on deer farms. And that's where chronic wasting disease was found, not in the wild. And we had a CWD response team. We had a CWD response plan set up and ready to go. And October 6th, when we got our first positive, we implemented that plan where we work with Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Health, USDA Wildlife Services, and Department of Agriculture and some others. And we quickly quarantined the farms that where the infected deer come from. And of course, our Animal Health Commission does the testing on CWD. So we have found 2 positives. Everyone else, every other deer that's been tested has been negative. So again, there was no positives in the wild. It's kept to the captive deer farms, and we do have 17 quarantine farms right now, but we're looking at ways for them to work off of that quarantine, out of that quarantine.
Mr. Secretary, you've been gracious with your time. I have enjoyed working with you, or at least being involved with you in your tenure as Secretary of Agriculture, and look forward to working with you over the next couple years.
Thank you.
Thank you for your stewardship.
Thank you.
Take care.